High above the clouds, a small airplane soared, a tiny speck against the vast blue sky. It was flying over a wide, golden desert that stretched out like an ocean of sand. Inside the plane, a young boy named Ethan pressed his face against the cool glass of the window. Ethan wasn't just any boy, he was a dreamer, a lover of grand adventure stories. His mind was filled with tales of ancient lands, cities hidden by time, and secrets lost to the ages. As he gazed out at the endless expanse below, the desert seemed to pull at his imagination, a blank page waiting for a story. Suddenly, the calm journey was shattered. The plane began to shake violently. The cabin lights flickered on and off, casting strange, dancing shadows. A deafening roar filled the air as the wind howled outside, clawing at the metal shell of the aircraft. Panic rose in Ethan's chest, but before he could even scream, a blindingly bright light engulfed him, washing over everything in a silent, brilliant flash. And then everything went silent. Everything went still. Ethan's eyes fluttered open. He was no longer in the rattling airplane, but lying on soft, warm sand. The sky above was a perfect, unbroken sheet of azure blue. The desert was eerily quiet, the only sound the gentle whisper of the wind. He looked around, his heart pounding. There was no plane. No wreckage. No people. Just sand and the wind. He pushed himself up, his legs a little shaky. "I'm alive," he whispered, the words sounding small in the immense emptiness. He took a tentative step forward, then another, his footprints the only proof of his existence in this vast landscape. As he walked, he noticed something incredibly strange. The sand ahead of him wasn't still. It was moving, swirling, forming a perfect circle as if stirred by an invisible hand. A deep, glowing hole began to open in the center of the circle, pulsing with a soft, ethereal light. The air around him changed, growing heavy, electric. Time itself felt wrong, stretched and distorted. Before Ethan could even think to step back, the ground beneath him gave way. And he fell. He was falling through a tunnel of light and shadow, a kaleidoscope of cosmic colors. He saw stars whizzing past like fireflies. He saw bursts of fire and swirling nebulous. He saw shapes and patterns he couldn't possibly understand, images that seemed to flash from the beginning and end of time itself. The fall felt like an eternity and a second all at once. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it ended. He landed softly, as if cushioned by an unseen force. Ethan scrambled to his feet and looked around, his breath catching in his throat. He was no longer in the empty desert he knew. In front of him stood a great, magnificent ancient city. Tall stone buildings reached for the sky, adorned with intricate carvings. Golden statues gleamed in the bright sunlight, their eyes seeming to watch over the bustling streets. Massive temples stood as monuments to forgotten gods. And everywhere there were people, dressed in flowing white robes, their faces calm and serene. Ethan's eyes grew wide with disbelief. This can't be real," he stammered. But it was. Every sight, every sound, every scent of spice in the air was real. He had fallen through the sand, through the light, and travelled back in time. The people of the ancient city looked at Ethan with surprise, but not with fear. Their expressions were ones of curiosity and quiet wonder. A kind-faced boy, about his own age, approached him, a gentle smile on his lips. "You came from the Sky Gate," the boy said, his voice soft. His words weren't a question, but a statement of fact. Ethan, still in shock, could only point a trembling finger towards the giant statues looming over them. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. The boy's smile widened. "You are in ancient Egypt," he replied. Ethan's gaze shifted to the horizon, and there they were, just as he'd seen them in his books. The Great Pyramids, rising from the desert floor, their triangular peaks piercing the sky. He saw workers in the distance, their muscles straining as they carried heavy stones. He saw scribes sitting in the shade, diligently writing complex symbols on papyrus scrolls. He hadn't just fallen into a storybook. He had fallen into the age of the pharaohs. The boy led Ethan through the vibrant city streets, past markets filled with exotic goods and artisans crafting beautiful pottery. They were heading towards the most impressive structure of all, a grand, sprawling palace. Inside, on a throne of gold and lapis lazuli, sat a young pharaoh. He was not much older than Ethan, but he carried an air of calm wisdom that seemed far beyond his years. The pharaoh's eyes were kind as he looked at Ethan. "The Time Gate has chosen you," the pharaoh said, his voice echoing slightly in the vast hall. "It opens only when the past and future touch, when a moment of great change creates a bridge between worlds." Ethan listened, mesmerized, as the pharaoh explained the city's secret. This was a place lost in time, hidden within the desert not just by sand, but by powerful magic and the strange currents of history. It was a sanctuary, a pocket of the past that existed alongside the future. The Sky Gate, the portal that had brought Ethan here, was its guardian. It would only allow a pure heart, a spirit of adventure and wonder, to enter. Ethan realized he hadn't just been in an accident, he had been chosen. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery shades of orange and purple, the ground in the palace courtyard started to glow again. The same swirling light he had seen in the desert began to form. The Time Gate was opening. It was time for him to go. The young pharaoh stood and gave a solemn nod. "Your world needs you," he said simply. "Go and carry the memory of this place with you." Ethan took a deep breath and stepped into the swirling vortex of light. The wind returned, whipping around him. The familiar scent of sand filled his senses. And then, suddenly, he was back in the quiet, empty desert. The sun was still high in the sky. Moments later, he heard shouting. A rescue team, cresting over a sand dune, had found him. To them, he had been missing for only a few minutes since the plane's emergency signal had been activated. But Ethan knew the truth. He had lived an entire day in another time. That night, safe and sound, Ethan sat by his window, looking up at the stars. They seemed different now, closer, filled with more secrets. His fingers closed around a small, smooth object in his pocket. He pulled it out. It was a small golden symbol, an ankh, the ancient Egyptian symbol for life. A gift from the past, slipped into his hand by the young pharaoh just before he left. He smiled to himself, a secret smile. Some cities are lost in the sand. Some are lost in time. And some stories, the very best ones, are just waiting for the right person to come along and tell them. Thanks for watching. If you loved this journey through time, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more adventures. We'll see you in the next story.